Hello and welcome back to The Splash. I'm Jonathan Jackson, and my guest on the show this week is Senator Mike Kowall from White Lake. He serves as Michigan's 15th State Senate District, which includes us here in West Bloomfield. So, Senator, I want to thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure, Jonathan.
Well, so talk to me today a little bit about you. How long have you served in the Senate?
Well, I went into the Senate in 2010, and I'll serve until 2018, and I'll be term limited out at that point in time. Before that, I was in the State House from 99 or 98. I was elected and served till 2002, and did some work around the world. I worked in China for a little bit and worked in Mexico for a while.
Traveling the world.
Oaxaca, Mexico, interesting place. And from there, I ended up coming back and being supervisor in White Lake, and ran for the Senate after that. So been around.
Yeah, and you're from White Lake too, so that's
right. Well, it made it easier. But we were doing a lot of traveling, and before that, I spent 38 years in the family construction business. So this is not first career choices, actually.
But you have a very deep history here in Michigan. You've grown up in Detroit. You've been around all the state, and not just in White Lake, but like I said, Detroit and other areas. What would you say you love best about, Michigan here as a state?
Well, what I love best about is the lakes here in our area, West Bloomfield, Bloomfield, and White Lake, and Highland, and Milford, and all this. To me, this is the best kept secret in the world, and fortunately, people are beginning to realize that, but that's just makes it more crowded. But for people that have been out here a long time, there's some changes that take place. But I think they're all for the better.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's talk a little bit about legislation. You
Sure.
are in the Senate. This has been a hard month, I think, for our nation. We've had multiple civilian shootings and even law enforcement shootings in Dallas. And you are working hard to make sure that sort of situation doesn't happen here in Michigan. Can you tell me a bit about what you're doing?
We're trying. We've had shootings, individual police officers. We lost one here in West Bloomfield, Patrick O'Rourke. And we know how devastating that is, not only to the family, but to the community. And it's not just the community of West Bloomfield, it's all the surrounding communities. Because all of us that have been involved in law enforcement to some degree, there's a brother-sisterhood there, whether it's police, fire, rescue. You're the first ones on the scene when something devastating happens. And we want to make sure they're protected and they have all the tools they need. And right now, with the friction and the high stress level, we're reminding people, let's have a little bit of patience. Let's be respectful for each other, both the police and the communities as well. And we want to make sure that that everybody's safe and everyone goes home at the end of the day and is there to take care of their families.
No, we were talking earlier about that system of respect, from, not just civilians, but also officers as well. That mutual respect can help, mend a lot of bridges. And, that's just something, we need to be, aware of that at all times.
Well, like you were saying, your mom taught you that when you were younger, and my mom and dad taught me that, and they were there to remind me when I didn't, and it was swift and sure punishment for that if I wasn't respectful.
Exactly.
And now my children are teaching it to their kids, and my grandkids are growing up with that same mindset. But we just need to do that as a community as a whole, and just to be patient. Being in law enforcement, and especially today, is an extremely difficult job.
Yeah.
With all the new rules, regulations, all the different groups that we work with.
Exactly.
We're right here in West Bloomfield. We're a melting pot.
Yes, we
There's
are.
every ethnic group you can imagine. And you don't have to go far. Just drive down Orchard Lake Road and look at all the restaurants. You know that everybody's here. And it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
And we just need to be cognizant of the fact that we're all a little bit different, but yet we're all Americans, and we're all here to, take advantage of what's here, constitutionally for us. So I'm just out there encouraging that.
Now, Senator, let's talk a little bit about some more legislation. Yeah, another thing you're trying to pass is an anti-hacking law. for automobiles. So, today's automobiles have a lot of technology in them, almost as much as our computers or our phones, and that's makes them, almost easily accessible, with hacking. So what inspired you to take on this challenge?
Well, what got me interested is we're working on the autonomous vehicle legislation right now, and that's the wave of the future for the automotive industry in our area. And there was a report that came out that talked about the Jeep Grand Cherokees being hacked into, and being that I drive one, that got my attention immediately.
Yeah, hopefully it did, yes.
And we started researching it and found out that your Ford Taurus has more computers in it right now than some of the 747 equipment of airplanes that are flying.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable the amount of the gigabytes that are in these cars. And as we go forward, that we start clicking into full autonomous mode, the last thing you want somebody doing is hacking into your vehicle while you're doing 70 miles an hour down I-75.
Exactly.
Because once you begin to trust the systems, you're going to really rely on them to be correct. I was just in a test with the U.S. military and MDOT. In fact, Lieutenant Governor and I rode in the lead truck. The governor was behind us in another very heavy military vehicle. These are large semi-trucks. We did our first platooning experiment on the roads, and that one of the things that my legislation I did back in 13 made possible, that we could experiment on the highways. And it came off flawlessly. But it's an incorporated system with connected streets, of which I'm happy to say Oakland County and our road commission is head and shoulders above everybody else, not only here in Michigan, but in the country.
They are doing a wonderful job.
They are doing an outstanding job. But we're working in conjunction with all that so that accidents like what Brooks Patterson got into never would have happened.
Yeah.
So as these vehicles are all talking to one another and to the infrastructure and making sure that we're moving along safely, the last thing we need is somebody, disrupting that frequency.
Okay. No, exactly, yeah. And also, too, with these automobiles today, like I was mentioning, the technology in them, the processors, the computers, that's all advancing so quickly. I mean, if you think about it, honestly, we need to be more careful when we're in the vehicles, not only just, from them being hacked, but when we're inside them as well. I mean, it's so easy to get distracted and to get, unfocused on the road, and I think that's another thing to worry about as well.
Well, we've been talking to the kids in the school, don't text and drive.
Exactly.
In fact, I just chastised one of my staff people today because I think he was texting me while he was driving, and I reminded him not to.
Automobile safety.
So he called me later on and said, I'm safe and in the office. But we just have to, be very careful. You're not operating your grandpa's car anymore.
Nope.
These systems are highly sophisticated, and they need your full-time attention. Now, as we move into this autonomous mode, that will take over some of those operations of the vehicle, but we still have a ways to go yet.
Yeah, true. But you are concerned about safety. That's one of your biggest platforms as Senator. Protection of safety, not only for our officers, in our vehicles, but you're also involved in a lot with veterans too, and making sure they're taken care of and protected. And just even this weekend, right? You had an event, a lapel pinning ceremony?
Last weekend we were up in Oscoda, and they had actually they had helicopters there from the Vietnam era, and they were flying people around in them.
It must have brought back some memories.
A lot of the veterans. It brought back a lot of emotions and memories.
Of course.
We put pins on almost 200 people.
Oh, wow.
We had the partners were in from Washington, D.C., a couple of staff sergeants and some officials were there with us, and my staff person, Lynn, was there as well and helping out, making sure everything was running smoothly. But we did see a lot of tears and a lot of hugs.
Yeah.
And it's a very emotional experience, and those of us that are old enough that remember the Vietnam War know that it wasn't the most popular thing in the world.
No.
And when the veterans came home, they weren't thanked. They were called baby killers, and they were, not treated very well. So we're trying to make up with that, although it's 50 years later.
True. But also, I mean, you're involved with them. You want to make sure that they're taken care of and that they are able to live a comfortable,
sure,
if, at least as comfortable as possible.
Well, we passed legislation earlier, it was last year, that if you're fully disabled, that's 100% full disability. You no longer have to pay property taxes on your residence in Michigan.
The benefits of that is unbelievable. That eases up a lot of stress and worry on their mind that's already taken up by other issues. So.
Well, when you get to a point where you can buy your medication or food,
exactly,
or pay your taxes, you have to live. So we don't want them going without. They served our country. They served honorably,
yes,
and we're extremely proud and thankful for what they did.
Yeah, well, that's good. And even so close to 4th of July, it's just good to remember our veterans, and not just of course now, but all throughout the year.
Well,
so
we say every day is Veterans Day.
That's right. Exactly. Well, Senator, too, while I have you here, I wanted to ask a little bit about, more about you. What do you love most about being in the Senate? I mean, I know your wife is actually involved in legislation, so your family is very heavily involved. And
well, as I was telling you earlier, I spent 38 years in the construction business with my family, and then I got involved in helping out Brooks Patterson, and one thing led to another, and
soon enough,
before long, I was running for State House, and to my surprise, I won. And I got into Lansing, and I remember looking at the ceiling, thinking, okay, now what do you do? Yeah. And you really have to pay attention to what your colleagues are doing, and there has to be a lot of trust amongst the legislators, because trying to gather all the information there is like drinking water out of a fire hose. There's just a lot coming at you.
Too much, yeah.
So before long, my wife got interested, and she ran for the county commission and won that. And I was in the State House for a while, and then I left there, and I worked in Mexico and China, and had some interesting experiences. And
you were telling me earlier too, you and your wife were I believe the only two, the first ever couple who was
correct.
Yeah,
we're the first couple to be elected and hold office at the same time.
Yeah.
And married, and we're still married.
Yeah, which is good as well.
Which is good
as well, yes.
42 years now, so
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Now, is anybody else in your family involved, or like
my brother's running for supervisor in White Lake Township?
What do you know? It runs in the family.
And he got the bug, and but it comes from a service-based business. We did that for years privately, and when you see opportunities to help the public out and move it forward, it's almost a natural progression for us. So I'm very proud of my brother. He's going to do a good job, and my wife does an outstanding job here at the county, of which now has a 3.8 unemployment rate.
That's very good.
Brooks has been working really hard on that.
Yeah.
We got a great sheriff, Mike Bouchard.
Yep.
We got some great people here, and we all try to support each other through various methods. I do it at the state level, and Eileen's working at the county level, and hopefully Rick will be there at the local level.
Exactly. Well, we appreciate you, and we thank you for all the work that you're doing, as well as with your family too. Everybody's involved in politics, but you are exactly one person who's done a lot of work for veterans, like I said, and a lot of work for people here in our district. So thank you so much, Senator.
You're more than welcome. Happy to do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, once again, folks, Senator Mike Kowall, we want to thank him again for joining us today and continue to support him and, of course, all the work that he does in our Senate. Thanks again, Senator.
You're more than welcome.